I'd like to begin with a quote from Ayn Rand. Throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads armed with nothing but their own vision. Their goals differed, but they all had this in common: that the step was first, the road new, the vision unborrowed, and the response they received, hatred. The great creators, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors, stood alone against the men of their time. Every great new thought was opposed. Every great new invention was denounced. But the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, and they paid. But they won.
Why do we keep making the same mistakes over and over?
I find this passage from The Fountainhead to resonate particularly profoundly with the film I will be analysing today, because the protagonist of each storyline is the embodiment of Ayn Rand's ideal, someone with a vision who fights to make it reality despite the hatred they receive. Cloud Atlas by the Wachowskis and Taika is an epic spanning centuries of humanity, from the transatlantic slave trade to the dystopic far future, exploring precisely this idea that Ayn Rand lays out. Cloud Atlas embraces the core of Objectivism, understanding that at its heart is neither politics nor morality, but simply humanity. It is a tale of fighting for freedom, fighting for music, fighting for hope, fighting for dignity, fighting for love, and fighting for survival, in a world that seeks to destroy all beauty from life and all possibilities of a future. This is what I will call the paradox of humanity, because the evil that stamps out the good does not come from outside, but from within. We are both the salvation and damnation of our own lives. To say, "I love you," one must first be able to say the I. Love is the expression of one's values, the greatest reward you can earn for the moral qualities you have achieved in your character and person, the emotional price paid by one man for the joy he receives from the virtues of another. The paradox of humanity manifests itself most prominently in Cloud Atlas with the dichotomous nature of individuals versus the collective. As Tom Hanks says at the very start of the film,
all voices tied up into one. One voice different.
This sets up the entire conflict that will be developed during the film, with the struggle coming from untying one's own voice from this tyrannical bundle of voices that try to silence one another. This is highlighted by the opening wide shot, the distance conveyed through the cinematography of the stars suspended in the darkness, alluding to how we are governed by cosmic forces beyond our reach. What do I mean by cosmic forces? I mean the forces of time and space that attempt to sever our connection with others and confine ourselves to a particular place in the world and moment in history that will define the life we are fated to live. This is made clear with the fact that the story is told through 6 different plot lines, each taking place in a different point of space-time. At face value, they seem completely disconnected, with the only point of reference being the recycling of the same actors. But while each character follows their own narrative to reach their own standalone conclusions, the story of Cloud Atlas would be incomplete with even a single one cut. The entire point of the film is overcoming this cosmic barrier between our souls, escaping the persecution we face from our own society, to discover free thinkers that will light up the darkness of the universe. The darkness presented from the beginning of the film is thus its own paradox. It is what divides humanity, but unites humans. It is what restricts us to the nature of where we happen to be born, and provides the means for our release from the artificial structures built around us. Later on in the film, Duna Bai and Jim Sturgis each play 2 different characters in different time periods, but through clever editing, the audience can't help but feel as though they are each a single soul throughout time.
Would you say that you loved him?
Yes, I do.
Do you mean you are still in love with him?
I mean that I will always be.
Does this mean that you believe in an afterlife? In a heaven or a hell?
I believe death is only a door. When it closes, another opens. If I cared to imagine heaven, I would imagine a door opening. And behind it, I would find him there, waiting for me.
The typically negative connotations associated with darkness and even death are inverted by becoming interlinked with the concept of love. The claustrophobic sensation induced by the set design's grey steel box is then juxtaposed with the bright halo lighting that floods the frame as Sturgis opens this door that Duna speaks of and is reunited with his wife. Despite being different characters, the lovers in both the 19th and 22nd centuries are played by the same actors, so the editing reinforces the idea set up by the film's opening shot that our souls are connected throughout time. The halo lighting emphasizing the existence of these unyielding individuals that Rand speaks of to light the way forward for everyone else who remains in the darkness.
You had to know this union scheme was doomed to fail.
Yes,
Then why did you agree to it?
if I had remained invisible, the truth would stay hidden. I couldn't allow that.
And what if no one believes this truth?
Someone already does.
The truth is not for all men, but only for those who seek it. Truth is the recognition of reality. Reason, man's only means of knowledge, is his only standard of truth. One must ask whether our struggle against injustice is futile, or if our desire for better is the victory in itself. As is displayed with Ben Whishaw's main character, he kills himself right at the beginning of the film. He does this despite his extraordinary talent as a musician, a gift he could not benefit from because of the homophobia of his time. Hatred was Frobisher's only reward for the beauty he tried to bring to the world. He paid the price for being a remarkable individual. Yet it is his music, the Cloud Atlas Sextet, that binds the souls of his 6 incarnations together. He understands that the struggle to create a better future is much longer than a single lifetime. The film cuts to the title screen before the gunshot is heard, the editing implying that while death is one of the central themes of the film, it is a distant concern. The narrative structure of ending the first sequence in this way highlights the irrelevance of death in making our vision reality. This determination to pursue perfection, even if it means dying, is accentuated towards the end of the film.
Are you insane?
I owe my life to a self-freed slave. And I cannot, in good conscience, participate in this kind of business any longer.
He knows that all he will receive is hatred, as our nature is fixed, so there is no sense in trying to change things.
There is a natural order to this world, and those who try to upend it do not fare well. This movement will never survive. If you join them, you and your entire family will be shunned.
This is intercut with Duna being executed in a white room, the colour reinforcing the purity of death, a blank canvas for the individual to begin life anew. While Hugo Weaving, who has played the epitome of evil in every plotline, smugly looks at her with the collective power of the state behind him. The world will always be controlled by evil as long as individuals subjugate their minds to others, with the cutback to Duna's shocked face in the 19th century after her 22nd century character dies, emphasizing the inevitability of humanity's failure. But Jim Broadbent's main character says earlier,
Fat snowflakes are falling on slate roofs and granite walls. Like Solzhenitsyn labouring in Vermont, I shall beaver away in exile. Unlike Solzhenitsyn, I shan't be alone.
It is irrelevant if society chooses to shun us, because it is our individual identity that gives our lives meaning, not conformity to the collective. Solzhenitsyn is believed to have once said that one drop of truth can outweigh an ocean of lies.
What is an ocean but a multitude of drops?
It does not matter if fighting for our values proves to be futile, because it is precisely this act of defiance towards evil that is itself what allows the individual to flourish. It is itself what allows us to break the paradox that plagues us. Learn to value yourself, which means fight for your happiness. Whatever their future, at the dawn of their lives, men seek a noble vision of man's nature and of life's potential. This is further explored through the comet, a birthmark that each protagonist carries, a symbol that embodies the messianic and apocalyptic to present humanity's potential. The first sequence of the film indicates this by rapidly cutting between different characters and time periods, setting the stage for each storyline following a different protagonist. From the optimistic brightness of the Caribbean, to the dreary grey clouds of the city, to the depressing desolation of a decrepit apartment, each setting is marked by a different aesthetic, the mise-en-scène conveying the different times and mindsets. But listen closely to what they say.
Question 1. What secret in 6 Myths report would be worth killing him for? Question 2. Is it reasonable to believe that they would kill again to protect that secret? And if so, question 3. What the fuck am I doing here?
While my extensive experience as an editor has led me to a disdain for flashbacks and flash-forwards and all such tricksy gimmicks, I believe that if you, dear reader, can extend your patience for just a moment, you will find there is a method to this tale of madness.
In a rather meta way, they are commenting precisely on what this film is about and the way it is told, which implies there is something special about these individuals. They are able to step outside of their own reality, to gain a greater understanding of life's invisible forces that elude everyone else. This is because they are the bearers of the comet birthmark. Now think, what is a comet? A comet is a traveller who journeys into the darkness, leaving behind an impressive trail for onlookers to marvel at, while pieces of its main body fall to the surface to either burn up or create a giant impact. A comet is an object of sheer potential, never knowing whether it will bring beauty or ruin until it is too late. The comet is a reflection of humanity's paradox. So these different characters are not different characters after all, but rather the same comet travelling through time, symbolising humanity's potential for creation and destruction. The opening sequence is thus showing the protagonist's eternal rebirth, the potential to break conventions and forge a path towards the future capable of being embodied by any individual. Nevertheless, while I have presented Ayn Rand's heroic individual, the other half to human nature has yet to be explored. The demon within us, who foolishly only feels hate and envy at the individuals who achieve more than what we believe we are capable of achieving. Let's take a look now at Somni's speech. She is her plotline's comet. But while the comet has fought to end injustices in every story depicted, the future only becomes more dystopian, with power consolidating in the hands of increasingly evil people. As Rand elaborates in The Virtuous Selfishness, man is the only living species that has the power to act as his own destroyer, and that is the way he has acted through most of his history. It seems that in our attempt to make things better, we bring the apocalypse upon ourselves, because our potential for greatness is precisely our undoing. Those who give in to their natural impulse for power will inevitably have the power to destroy. This is made evident by the hectic mise-en-scène of lasers, explosions, and death juxtaposed against Duna as she cries while delivering her speech.
Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we are bound to others. Past and present. And by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.
While we must first learn how to be responsible for ourselves, how to act through reason, not impulse, how to strive for creation, not destruction, how to gain an acute sense of our own self, not surrender ourselves to others, we are ultimately responsible for each other, as no single individual can save humanity.
In your revelation, you spoke of the consequences of an individual's life rippling throughout eternity.
Our actions never just affect us, as we are all part of the same human entity in this life and the next. So by each crime we fall as a species, and every kindness we begin to rise again, because the only future we can have is one that we have together. Cloud Atlas makes it clear that individualism will ultimately save humanity from the destruction caused by the collective. Yet this is not an individualism of alienation, as tends to be misconstrued, but one that finds value in a community of free thinkers and individuals who understand their worth, where our separate souls can voluntarily connect, as opposed to the imposition of collective authority. The objectivist philosophy of Cloud Atlas explores what makes our connection with one another stronger, because despite running the risk of becoming lost in the darkness, it is our discovery of each other as free individuals that binds our souls in a more complex and meaningful way. The apocalypse is therefore our own doing, a macrocosm of the individual choices we are constantly making right now. Not an event to be fought against, but an internal battle to be overcome, an ideal to strive towards, so we may realize our full potential and escape the paradox of humanity that governs our future once and for all.
This is John Galt speaking. Have you noticed that as everything around you seems to decline, one thing still grows? It is the power of your rulers. None of their plans and directives have solved your problems or made your life better. The only result has been their increased control over you at the cost of your freedom. Do you know why? You gave them the power. They called for your sacrifice, and you thought it was noble. They said if you worked for yourself and your family, that you were selfish and uncaring, and they made you feel ashamed. They denounced the leaders of industry as greedy exploiters, the Ellis Wyatts, the Hank Reardons, and again, you agreed. And then you ask, why did they and others like them disappear? I took them from you. Their achievements flowed from their creative minds. Once they understood that the attempt to control their work was an attempt to control their minds, they left. The people on strike worked for themselves, for their own vision of what was possible. When they recognized the honor they deserved, they rebelled against the guilt you wanted them to feel for their success. You counted on them to keep producing, to keep thinking, even as you denounced them as selfish. I showed them they were being punished for their own virtues, and I showed them how evil that is. I made it my mission to help these heroes say no. All evil needs to win is the consent of good people. They have joined me to freely produce, trade, cooperate, and compete in a place where the rights of all are protected. Do not try to find us. Do not try to bargain for our return. Get out of our way. To everyone within the range of my voice, you now have a choice to make. If you decide to support the notion of sacrifice enforced by the state, your game is up. Your world is in a downward spiral, and you will ride it down to destruction. But if you share the values of our strike, if you believe that your life is a sacred possession for you to make the most of, if you want to live by the judgment of your own mind, not edicts from the state, then follow our lead. Do not support your own oppressors. Stop letting the system exploit you. Form your own communities on the frontiers of your crumbling world. Your rulers hold you by your endurance to carry the burdens they impose, by your generosity when you hear cries of despair, and above all, by your innocence which cannot grasp the depths of their evil. The world you are living in is the world they wanted. Leave them to it. Those who have left you are eager to build a better world, a world of freedom and opportunity, a world based on mutual respect. In that world, you will rise in the morning with the spirit you knew in childhood, the spirit of eagerness and adventure, and the confidence that the world is what it is and is there for you to discover. In that world, you will not receive alms, nor pity, nor forgiveness of sins, but honor, respect, and justice. Don't let the fire go out spark by irreplaceable spark in confusion and despair. Be sure of your path. The world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It is yours.